Hey everyone, it's Owen here from OTech, and today I will be unboxing the Reeven Kiran fan. So this is an RGB fan, and first and foremost, this is the second fan that Reeven sent to me. The first one was the Cold Wing that I uploaded the unboxing of recently, and this is the second fan which they sent to me. So thanks to Reeven for the providing the review samples. I really appreciate that. And actually, it's really the first company that sent me a completely no charge review sample, since for the Noctuas that I got as a review sample, I still had to pay for them since they only do reviewer discounts according to Noctua. So yeah, thank you to Reeven. And now let's take a look at the product itself. So in the front of the box you can see the illustration of the fan, so the RGB-ness of it, and the RGB just printed on top to show that it's an RGB fan. Now, Reeven fan, Kiran, and some of the specifications. So it's a 120mm fan, and it's a 1500 RPM fan. So it's not exactly the fastest, most high performance fan. It's unlike the Cold Wing fan, which is 2000 RPM, which is really fast. So this is more of a form over function fan, I think. But we'll see about the performance when I actually test it. It might perform pretty good. So the controls is pretty simple. It's just a simple button. So you control the RGB from that and cycle through the color modes and animations. And the fan has rubber corners on the edges to reduce vibrations. And they also include a splitter cable to run two fans off one motherboard header. Now for the back, you can see the descriptions of the fan. So this is the first RGB fan from Reeven. And this fan, finally now, Reeven uses a high quality FDB bearing. So this is like one of their other fan, I think it is called Eros fan, and that fan also has an FDB bearing, and this is way better than sleeve bearing and any other type of bearing. This is the best bearing design. This is why the life expectancy of this fan is way higher than the Cold Wing, which is 30,000 hours. This is 120,000 hours, and that's why they also put a 2-year warranty, although it'd be nice if they put like a 3-year or a 4-year warranty, since Noctua puts 6-year. And then again, Noctua just costs a lot more, even though they don't even have RGB. So yeah, I wouldn't complain about the 2-year warranty. You're already getting like an RGB fan with a good bearing. So there are 7 lighting modes, 7 colors, and 3 lighting modes, as you can see here being showcased. And here's the specifications. 2000 RPM, 1500 RPM, sorry. 2000 RPM is the Cold Wing, so this is much slower. And 64.8 CFM. That's the most important part. 120,000 hours life expectancy, and on the side talks about high airflow and the FDB bearing. But yeah, let's take a look inside. Talk too much about the box. Now we should get going and open it up. So here's the first small box. The small box includes the screws. So you can tell it's the accessories box, the PWM white splitter, so 4-pin, and also the user manual, which is hang on a second. It's basically just shows you what's the lighting modes, so that you can cycle through, so that you don't get confused of what it can and cannot do. Because this fan is a controller-free RGB fan, so it's got its own integrated controller into the fan hub. It doesn't need an external controller, which might be a good thing or might not be a good thing depending on what you want from the fan. If you just want to set it to one color at a time and you want RGB so that you can change like color themes, then this fan would probably do pretty good, since you just need to press it a few times to get to the color you want and just leave it at that. But if you wanted to sync to like your music and like keep changing the color whenever you want really often, then this might not be a good option, since you'll have to change the color of the fans one by one and by opening your case. So yeah, it's not a USB connected fan, but then again, like I said, it can be a pro and it can be a con at the same time depending on your use case. Because as a pro, I think it's because it reduces the cable clutter in your case, and it's much cheaper too, and it's simpler, and you don't need extra software loading up your Windows operating system. So that's always a good thing. I don't like running extra software, especially nonsense ones, just like to control your fans. It's ridiculous. So I run my Windows bare minimum, so I prefer like non-software fans like this actually. So here's the fan itself. It's got like a semi-transparent, so translucent white frame, and it actually looks really good without even the RGB on. I actually quite like the look of it compared to other RGB fans without the fan being on, which I think looks horrendous on some fans. Like, I don't like the looks of the NZXT Air and the Corsair HD fans for the RGB when they're off, at least not as much as the simple looks of this one. And it's got 9 blades, which looks like it's spaced out for high airflow too. So just like the cold wing fan, it's got like a high blade angle, spaced out a lot, and 9 blades, so it looks like a high airflow fan. And you can see the motor itself is just a 4-pole motor, so it's a 2-phase motor. So that's why the fan doesn't spin as smooth as a 6-pole 3-phase motor like a Noctua fan, which is the IPVC fans, and also the Be Quiet Soundwings 3 fans, which are 6-pole 3-phase motors. But this is again a really cheap fan for an RGB fan, so you can't really complain about that. On the back you can see the sticker and all the specifications and model number on it, and the cabling itself is actually really nice because they actually sleeved it properly this time. You can feel that it's a higher quality sleeve, and they sleeved it right to the end. And then again, the cable is also black, so you can't see any color on it. I really like, especially being an RGB fan, you don't want any color to clash. So kudos to Reeven for doing that. That's really nice. That's a really good cable. And for the frame itself, there's the anti-vibration pads, so it should reduce vibration and noise from the fan. And yeah, that's about it about the fan itself. And oh, I guess the fan frame is actually quite flimsy because, well, you can see that the frame is quite thin, so that's probably why. This is an RGB fan, so they do like a thin black frame that's like cut away on this part, so it's not solid, and then they put like a circular plastic translucent white piece on it to diffuse the light. So that's why the rigidity is kind of off, although this fan doesn't hit the fan blades if you like squeeze it with your hand like the cold wing, because the gap is kind of bigger. Although that's not a good thing, and that's could also be a good thing, I guess, if you want to test to see how cheap it feels by squeezing it. But generally, smaller gaps means it's better for fans, smaller gaps between the fan blade and the frame. So yeah, we'll see how this performs when I test it on the radiator and things like that on my big fan roundup. But for now, let's just test it and see how it does in free air. So hooked up to my fan controller, low speed, it immediately starts turning, and this is on the blue mode, which I said before. And yeah, let's just test out the speed first. And you can see that the LED is quite dim because I'm using the voltage controller, not the PWM controller, so the LEDs also get less voltage. But here it is on half speed, and you can see it starts getting bright already, and in real life it actually looks pretty uniform, and I think it looks pretty good compared to most RGB fans, especially the cheap ones, where it does look like it's completely not uniform and it looks really bad. So this is quite good. It's quite diffused and soft lighting. It doesn't really have that much of a hotspot like you can see on the camera. So yeah, and the airflow, well, you get some airflow. It's not that much, but it's at a lower speed. So let's crank it up to 100%. And here you start to hear the fan noise. Before, you can't really hear anything. So yeah, on this speed, then there's quite a decent amount of airflow. It's not a massive amount like the cold wing fan at maximum 2000 RPM, but this is just a 1500 RPM fan, and it's also much quieter. So I could probably run this like full tilt like this, and you won't really even hear it over the noise of other things. It's really quite quiet. You just hear a slight wind noise. There's not really any motor noise thanks to the FDB bearing, and the airflow is quite nice, but it's not that big, so I wouldn't use it as a performance fan if that's what you're looking for. if you want a performance fan, then I don't think you should even be looking at like LED RGB fans, because as far as I know, there's no single RGB fan that's like high speed and high performance. So yeah, that might change, but I don't think so that one of those like high performance and RGB fans exists as of right now. So let's cycle through the colors. So there's blue, green, purple, yellow, but it looks kind of white here. It's kind of off. And here's light blue, and this should be white. Yeah, so it's white, and you do kind of see the red green markings on the middle a little bit in real life, but not as bad as in the camera. But yeah, it's not quite pure white because it doesn't have like white LEDs. It's just combining all the RGB LEDs together. And there's a color switching mode, there's an off, and there's a color cycle mode, so like a rainbow effect. So yeah, here you can see kind of just goes over the colors like a standard RGB mode. Then there's red before the blue that I tested. So yeah, let's just test it out in the dark and see how it looks. So it looks much brighter in the dark to the camera, and it's actually really uniform. So I really like the looks of this RGB implementation by Reeven on the Kiran. It looks like really uniform in real life. It looks kind of like hot spots on the camera, but it's not really like that. Although sure, you can look at where's the LED, like you can point out where's the bright spots, but it's not that bad, and it's actually quite nice in real life. So I don't know how to show it, but it really does look quite diffuse, and I really like the looks of it. This is one of the best looking RGB fans that I tried. I mean, granted, I haven't tried a lot of RGB fans. The other one I tried is a crappy one. So yeah, so let's just cycle through it like before, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's turn the light back on, and you know, that's basically the Reeven Kiran fan. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, please click on the like button, and also please click the subscribe button if you want to see more of my future videos, which I'll also be doing the ultimate like huge fan roundup, comparing a bunch of fans and their aesthetics and performance and build quality. So that'll come pretty soon, so if you want to see that, please click subscribe. But anyways, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, thank you. Bye.